and officially welcome everyone to tonight's Alumni AMA with Laura Archambault. Very excited to have her join us tonight. Thank you so much for being here, Laura, and letting us spotlight you and your story. Want to have you introduce yourself. Laura is a 2020 grad, and as I said, she's here to talk about her journey to Flatiron School and what she's up to now. So before we dive into, all of the story, tell us quickly what program did you graduate from and what are you up to today?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm insanely honored to be here. So as you said, in 2020, I actually graduated from the software engineering program. And then today I work at a digital product agency called Black Airplane, and I am a product owner.
So we have some news to celebrate. You just started this job, I see, yeah?
Yes. So I was a contract worker at Cox. So that was earlier this year. And just 2 weeks ago, I got my job at Black Airplane and so started there. It's been really, really exciting starting the new job. So
Congratulations. That's very exciting and exciting time of year to start. Well, let's go back in time. Let's go into our time machine. Tell us a little bit about where you started, what you were doing before Flatiron, and then how did you wind your way to programming?
yeah, it's such a fun story because I think a lot of people have very intentional career stories where they set out like, oh, when I was in high school, I wanted to do this. And most of my career has just been like, well, there was an opportunity or I needed a job, so I took it. And so a lot of what I was doing before Flatiron, I was an administrative assistant, so a secretary. And I actually loved it. I was really good at that. I loved the details. I loved just making other people's jobs work. But I realized there was kind of a salary cap there where it wasn't going to get my family where I wanted us to be financially. And what's so funny is the very first thing that sparked the thought of going into coding or development for me was a BuzzFeed article on top growing careers. And they're like, oh, here are all the fastest growing careers in America right now by salary. And so some of them were like RNs, you get to make like very little money. And the top one was software engineering. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I need to get into that. And so that was the funniest thing. It planted that seed in my head. But the more I started researching, I was like, this seems fun. I think I would enjoy this. And so with some research, came across Flatiron School. And I had a lot of trepidation about doing a new career. And it would mean like my husband having to fill a lot of gaps with the kids so that I could do schooling and all of this stuff. And, what if I don't get a job? And there were people that I met that had been to Flatiron that gave it fantastic reviews that they were now developing. And I think that gave me a lot of peace. And so from there, I loved the program. I graduated in 2020, a couple months after the pandemic exploded. So that was nerve-wracking. But I found my first company. I started as a front-end web developer for a while, and I loved it. But the company had they had difficulty kind of mentoring from like a junior level to a senior level. They had a handful of people sporadically trying to build things, and no one really had the time to mentor me. So I got kind of not trapped, but I was working on this one website program without a really good path for growing my skills in other areas of software development. Right then, the company decided they wanted to build a new software offering, and the leadership of development that had just come in came and said like, okay, the first thing I need is a product owner. And they're not giving me the resources to hire one, but you would be a fantastic product owner. Will you do this? Okay, sure. And so
Wow.
I started just writing stories. If you guys don't know what a product owner is, the title comes from the agile framework of Scrum. There is a product owner on the team, and a lot of their job is to it depends on what company you're at, but a lot of companies, the role of a product owner really entails writing stories, finding out requirements, writing acceptance criteria, and a lot of that groundwork for making a developer's job ready, like getting all the work ready so the developers can start building and communicating between the business saying, hey, we want to build this thing or we want to make money with this software, and the developers actually building it and translating back and forth sometimes, because as we know, sometimes the business owners and developers don't always speak the same language. So yeah.
Cool. So you're translating like technical concepts and business concepts to both of those different parties.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that was part of why, even though like development was not a requirement to become a product owner, it is one of the most valuable assets I have. Because I've got that dev background, it is instinctive for me sometimes to like, oh, like the business will say, we want to build this. And they just hand it to the developers. They're like, okay, well, where are we getting this data from? How are we setting up the database? How are, all of this. And so I can think through some of the, okay, well, we need to make these decisions. Let me go to my UX team. Let me do this. And so that the dev background is really what has made me successful as a product owner. So yeah.
What other like attributes or skills would you say, in addition to the technical stuff, made you a strong, or has made you a strong product owner? Because I would argue, like, it sounds like there's a lot of communication involved and organization and these other things.
Actually, those are the two biggest ones I was probably going to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, communication is huge because it's similar. I don't know if anyone's familiar with project management, where you're trying to make a project happen and there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different teams. So you've got the marketing team, you've got the sales team, you've got, in a digital product, you've got UX, you've got QA, you've got clients, you've got all different kinds of stakeholders, you've got users, you've got, the CEO. And so being able to say, all right, we're going to build something brand new. This isn't a factory, right? Like we're not reinventing something. We're not producing something that's already been built. We can't finesse this process. It's not like this software exists and we're just repeating it. We're building a new software. So I don't know with certainty how long it's going to take us to finish this or when we can go to market. But being able to use tools to, okay, get the best estimate from dev, get the best estimate, the processes for communicating. We go through this stage, through that stage, to the next stage. Then we'll be ready at this point. Keeping everybody in the loop, like we're at this milestone now. That communication is huge. So it really helps to be someone who can negotiate different personality types, because you've got a lot of your developers tend to be, they have different personality types, but a lot of times you'll find these like developers are really smart and they know how to build stuff and they're just so frustrated that other people don't get it. And they're like, why don't they see that this is complicated? They want to just snap our fingers and build it. And so helping to kind of like, okay, tell me why it's complicated. Help me advocate for why you need more time. And the business owner is just like, why don't the developers get it? We need to put this out quickly. Okay, help me understand the business pressures so that we can put the highest priorities first, make sure we're getting the right resources, and then we can add more later. And so being able to hear what matters to people, filter through all the noise, and get down to the root of it, it turns it away from, like, a lot of times these different departments end up, not intentionally, but they end up fighting. It's like sales has pressure to meet their sales goals, marketing has pressure to meet their goals. When you can have the right conversations, you can get everybody focused on the same goal and put their priorities next to each other in light of the business priorities. Then it doesn't become me versus you. It becomes we're on a team. We all agree this is the most important thing we're building. So communication and listening is a huge part of it. And then you come from the marketing side, you're like, yes.
Feeling heard.
And then my detailed personality, I am the one that doesn't, let's see. I love to like cross every T and dot every I. And that's where a lot of times you have product managers, people who are in the higher level strategy of like, oh, what's the best product strategy for what we can build to bring the business money? I love to just duck my head. You've already told me what we're going to build. I'm going to duck my head down and make sure that we have researched everything. We've, groomed the backlogs so dev knows what they're built. Like I love making all the notes and making sure everybody knows what they're doing. And so those are the things that really help me in the whole product owner niche.
Oh yeah, it's really amazing. I love that. So you went from developer to product owner. I mean, do you feel like this is sort of serendipitous? I mean, it's so interesting. I talked to a lot of grads and even people that are coming to Flatiron, and sometimes we can get so focused on like software engineering, software developer. Um, do you miss development at all, or do you feel like this is just the path that's kind of just been right for you?
It's funny, I said at the beginning, a lot of my career has not been super intentional. Sometimes it just like happened and I was like, oh, here we are, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
almost feel like product ownership was like that. But I look back and it was a really, really good boss who tapped me for this. And I'm so thankful that he did. I do to some degree miss development, but I'm never far from it. I work with developers all day long and I have very, very tight relationships with them. We're talking about development. So even though I'm not the one coding, I still get to be very close to it. And I think at first I really did have to wrestle with like, did I just leave something really valuable? Like, have I messed up my career? And the more that I thought about it, like it was like there's still time, right? Like I can go back, I can change this. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was a really, really good fit for me. And part of the reason is like, yes, I am a good developer, but I feel like if you look at all the skills that make a good developer, they're the ones who, and there's so many different personality types that make a good developer. There's not one good, and that's, it brings a lot of value to a company to have diverse personality types in development. But one of the things that is really valuable is being a fast learner. There are dozens of tools, like people are learning new tools and learning new frameworks and things like, and new things you've never done before. And to some degree, that's exciting, but to some degree, it's stressful for me. And so it puts me a little out of the like growth zone and more into the stress zone when I'm in the developer role. And it's a lot of like I like to learn things thoroughly. And a lot of times in the job, you got to learn enough to get it built and move on. And so there's also a lot of the skill, like I said, so here's how I think about it. If you were to take all the developers in the world and stack them up from best to, not best, would maybe be somewhere in the middle. But if you took all the product owners and lined them up from best, I would be able to be in a smaller percentile at the top. It's a more natural fit for my skills. It's more people oriented. Like I said, developer roles are all differ. But at some companies, your developers, you have one or two 15-minute meetings a day, and you're on your own the rest of the day. Some roles are very collaborative, but I was in a very isolated role. Whereas with a product owner, like I'm talking to everybody in the company, and I love that. So I like having at least half of my day working with people, very collaborative. We're working through ideas.
Mhm.
It's very life-giving to me. So
Nice.
though I at first panicked that it was a mistake, I'm now very confident and I'm like, yes, I am a product owner. That's who I am.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Now, there's a question in the chat about how this might be different than a product manager or management role. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, again, differs at all companies. The company that I'm in now, actually, there's a lot more blending between like product owner and product. So a lot of times your product owner is more tactical, more get it built. So like I said, the idea has already been selected. We're going to build this product. And maybe you're informing, okay, well, based on what the code we currently have, you need to think about these dependencies and stuff like that. But you spend less time steering the company product strategy and more time executing what's been decided. And so I live in the backlog. I spend my time writing stories. I spend my time refining stories with the developers. I spend my time checking in to see their progress. Like, have you finished this one yet? Checking up on QA, making sure it got closed, making sure it got delivered. I spend my time getting it built without doing the actual coding. And a product manager, a lot of times, again, all companies have different titles, different structures. A product manager, a lot of times, is the one figuring out which product will have the best return on investment. What do our clients want? What's the competitor analysis? and really taking from, like, our company has a strategy or a goal for the year. We want to bring on X number of clients. And then the product strategy team says, okay, what new product or what new feature is the best thing to meet our company goals and be in alignment with all of the company goals? And then once they've kind of said, here's the direction, the product owner a lot of times picks up from there. So
Great. Thank you for that. I'm gonna hop into chat. Let's see. We've got someone asking, making sure I've got all my questions covered. You spoke a little bit to like the stress component of it to Lauren's question. Sounds like it really depends on your personality. You know, what could be stressful to one person might be another person's like sweet spot.
it does, and it very much personality and very much company. A lot of the companies that I've been in, a lot of the pressure for getting the right decisions lays on product management. And so me being in product owner, I'm just head down getting it built. Like, this is what you asked for. Here you go.
Love it. Megan says, as someone who has worked in this field for a few years now and just landed a new position, what types of tips would you give to current job seekers, especially in this market?
That is a hard question. And I will say, for transparency, like, it is a very hard job market. I thought 3 years ago when I was looking for a job, it was a hard job market. And I thought 8 months ago when I was looking for a job, it was a hard job market. But now it's even harder. So transparently, it is tough. So part of what I would advise is flexibility. There are a lot, especially if you're in software engineering, know what your company needs, or know what employers need, and find a way to adapt to that. I will say 90% of what got me the jobs were skills that I learned in Flatiron's career coaching. So pay attention, like, be open and receptive to advice. All of that is good. But trying to think of things that, I mean, they'll probably tell you, but my unique advice would be know what the companies need. Be like, think through how to sell yourself. Don't just be, hey, I'm super awesome, I have a lot of skills. Come across as, you have this problem and I will solve this problem for you. I understand what, I'm not all about me, like, hey, I'm so great, I deserve a job, or hey, I've got the best skills. It's, I know how to apply my skills. And like, if your company's goal is, I don't know, profit, everybody wants a profit, right? How do my skills bring your company profit? And I understand how I'm going to apply my goals, and just, I don't know, that magic feeling that you get when someone just gets it. Figure out how to sell yourself to the companies in that way. Be flexible. If you have no experience in development or UX or whichever one it is, if you're going for your entry-level job, know that a lot of companies right now are hesitant to hire someone until you've got 3 years under your belt. So with that, look for those creative ways to get experience. Get volunteer experience if you have to. Look to overcome a lack of experience, like I said, with other strategies of showing how you deliver value. And I know a lot of, like, for developers, I know a lot of people who got in through other roles, like a QA engineer, and then they worked their way into a developer role. So the flexibility is very helpful. It also just helps to know your goals. For me, I didn't have the flexibility to be without income. And so my first job out of the boot camp paid a lot less than some of my cohort peers. I pretty much took the first job that I was offered, and it paid like $50,000 fresh out of software engineering boot camp. And a couple of my peers were at 80,000 right out, which was fine. It took them several months longer to get it, and I didn't have the risk to wait and pass up a job offer and maybe not get another one. And so know your goals, what's for your finances, things like that. For some people, you don't mind waiting another half a year to land the perfect role. For some people, you need a job now. So maybe that QA engineer, go through another direction is a great way to get in the door, get paid now, and get relevant experience that contributes to your ideal title. Being flexible, again, it depends on your goals, but that was the biggest advice for me, is there are a lot of opportunities where you can get experience that's tangent to what you want to do. And so if you're willing to do that, you can get paid getting similar experience. And then especially like if you're at a large company, I didn't do this on purpose, but one of my most recent job was at Cox. The networks that you will build at a large company are unbelievable. It's like, oh, I'm now a Cox alum. So now I have anybody who's ever worked at Cox on LinkedIn. I can say like, hey, fellow Cox alum, can you recommend me for this job? So like maybe the job is a tier or two below what you're looking for. But if, again, I don't want to encourage anyone to settle, but if it's consistent with your goals, the networking and connections that you can get at a good company sometimes are worth it. So yes.
I second that. But I have been a career coach, so I'm by a little biased to that advice. But I think anything that you can tie into a logical narrative, which is a different way of saying what you just did, which is if it ties into your goals, then it just makes sense. Like I entered this role to help me acquire these skills that are going to help me advance to this next level in my career. And it wasn't a complete U-turn. It was, a little bit of a detour to get eventually to the destination that you're looking to arrive at.
Oh, that's another thing that Flatiron's career coaching really helped me identify was one of the ways you stand out is by realizing what your narrative is so far. So I grew up in church. I grew up working at churches. I grew up leading small group, like everything I did, like I lived at the church. My first job was for a small company that built software for churches. So I was essentially a subject matter expert, and that helped give me a leg up over someone who didn't know anything about the like evangelical landscape of, and I don't know, church culture in America. And so there are really valuable, a lot of people are looking for developers in insurance and let's see, medical field. So if you have anything in your background that's banking, insurance, medical, anything like that, those industries are looking for developers that have industry knowledge, finance, things like that. But whatever your experience is, it a lot of times is a good way to get to stand out that you have the expert background. You're not just somebody who codes, you get what the company is doing.
Yeah, well said. I was just reminded as you were sharing your story, Laura, that if I recall, one of the ways that you like what helped get you noticed by, was it Start Church, I think, was finding an error on their website. Is that right?
It is. It's one of those, sometimes I feel like I come across a bit much, and my detail-oriented personality, like basically telling people they're wrong, isn't well received by everyone. But I had reached out to someone at the company and like, hey, I love what you're doing. If you guys ever look for a software engineer, just wanted to kind of open that connection. By the way, here's like 18 screenshots for your website where there are typos, grammatical mistakes, errors, things like that. And sure enough, that was one of the things they were like, oh, wow. Fortunately, it worked in my favor. And that is what I spent my first few months doing, is going through the website and fixing all the mistakes on the website. So
nice. I love that example because it just puts a fine point on like, where can you add value? And it comes in all kinds of different ways.
that was a fantastic memory though.
What other questions do we have? And we're coming up on time here, so I just want to make sure that your questions can get asked. Feel free to come off mute too.
One quick question. What was the company you're currently working for again?
It's called Black Airplane. It's a very small, or relatively small. It's about 30 people in Woodstock, Georgia.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And you said they're an agency, so they have multiple clients.
They do. So instead of just in case you don't know what a digital agency is, instead of them being a company that builds their own product, they build products for other companies. So a company's like, oh no, our website's broken, please fix it, or we need a marketing website, or we need an app. You hire us and we build it for you.
Cool. But you see a lot of different fun projects.
It is fun because right now there are 2 product owners at the company, and we have about 18 different clients with projects being built right now. So this is very new to me, as learning how in the world you support that process when I'm used to being solely dedicated to one project. So
Wow.
it's fun though. I'm enjoying it.
Amazing. Great. Well, any other last question? If not, I'm going to share a link to our survey again. Really appreciate y'all just taking a few minutes to give us some feedback, and giving Laura a huge thank you for letting us talk to her tonight. And thank you so much for sharing your story, Laura, with us. And we recorded this. We'll share it out so you can find it on our employer YouTube list. And hope you all have an amazing evening and a happy holiday. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Laura.